There you go.
Oh, thank you.
You're going to need to make your own drinking noises. I can only do my own. And also clink.
Oh, clink.
Celebrate.
Yeah.
A happy 250 episodes of Queer and
Oh,
Pleasant
that's
Strangers.
what this is.
Yeah.
Ah.
Yeah. I mean, we don't really have any kind of budget for this.
No.
No.
I'm realizing from the having to make my own clink sounds.
And having to make all your own sound effects for the imaginary champagne Prosecco
definitely
celebratory
popping
beverage.
open a champagne for this.
Definitely
yes.
happened. Definitely happened. Yeah, but yeah, well, that's it. 250 episodes. Ta-da!
Ta-da!
We've come so far in N number of years, N being the number of years that it's been. I'm guessing somewhere around 5.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Theoretically, yeah. And gosh, what a time it was. We wanted to talk about some things we'd done. We wanted to have a bit of a catch up. We wanted to be silly at each other. So, once again, Clinky, clink, to your very good health and to 250
yours.
more episodes.
Yay.
Maybe next time we'll get real champagne.
Maybe.
Or some sparkling beverage. Maybe a lettuce. Who knows where Britain will be in 5 years' time? Maybe a lettuce will be the luxury.
That'll be the light of luxury, will it?
Ooh. Greetings, strangers, queer and pleasant. I'm not Laura Kate Magnet-Dale.
I'm not Jane Eyre Magnet-Dale, and welcome to another episode of Queer and Pleasant Strangers.
A 250th episode.
Yeah, it's a podcast with two queer trans women. That's us. We talk about the stuff we've done in the week that's media, and we make each other giggle and stuff. You heard the opening. You know what this is.
Yeah.
What have you been playing this week?
Oh, I've been playing very little.
Yeah.
Because you see, I'm on holiday from my day job, right?
Yep.
So what I decided to do, instead of just, going in and doing 8 hours work there, I'd just fill all of my time with all the work I do outside of that.
Yeah.
And not rest.
Woo.
But played very little. We played an board game. We played 2 board games.
Yeah.
We played some Tapestry, which we haven't played for a really long time.
I really like that game.
I love Tapestry. I just wish the bases on the little buildings were closer to the actual squares that they need to go on.
Yes.
Because some of them are right awkward. I'm looking at you, the Rubber Factory.
So we've talked about this game before. It is a game where there's multiple tracks that are science, inventions, war, and you spend resources to sort of go up those tracks and get rewards that help you go further up those tracks.
And they ping off each other.
Yeah. But the thing you were saying about the bases is part of the game is you get all these little buildings, you put them on a grid system
your
to
landmarks.
to fill out a grid and get
capital
rewards.
city.
But the buildings were just someone had made some nice little building figurines and a board
Jamie
game.
Stegmaier was like, you know what? I want to build a game around those.
Yeah, despite the fact that these buildings didn't always neatly fit grid spaces.
No.
They're close to grid spaces. You can work out what they're meant to cover.
Most of them are very manageable, but there's a couple of buildings that are just a little bit short for what they're supposed to be, and they are a pain in the arse to work around. But other than that, it's a very cool. I hesitate to say sort of an engine builder. It isn't really. You have your factions which have got a particular special ability.
It's a little engine building-y in that you're trying to sort of domino effects a little bit in that you're if I go up to this space, I'll get an extra building, and that extra building will be perfectly timed for me to fill in the square on the grid, which will get me an extra resource back, which will mean I get to take an extra turn moving up one of the tracks.
Oh.
It is a game of finding synergies.
Yes.
And leaning into a point scoring avenue of many options. We played with I think all the expansions.
The 2 current expansions that are available. I think there is a new one coming. I think it's actually available to purchase from tomorrow.
Yeah. The main
at the time of recording.
The main things were the hard mode optional boards that you could.
Yes, the advanced capital city boards.
Yep.
Playing with.
I had a much easier time with mine than the one you were offered.
Yeah, yours was interesting from the point of view of it had a lot of big open space, but also you couldn't overlap anything off the edge of your board. Which meant that if you got too many landmarks, you wouldn't be able to clear things off of your sort of standard player board, meaning that you would get less things when you had your income phase, but also it meant that you had to be really careful about what you were getting and how
But I
you
had
were
a
getting
very
it.
neat and tidy time where I could just line things up so neatly.
You really did.
And the other big one we did was the arts track, which is
Yes.
an additional kind of world development you can do.
Yeah.
This was the first time I think either of us really touched the art track a lot.
Yes, we played with arts and architecture before. I don't think either of us really bothered going up that track.
Yeah.
We obviously we've used the blueprints from that, which are like at the beginning of the game you get a blueprint building or a blueprint card. If you fulfill the criteria on that card, you'll get a special landmark.
Yeah. The what were the milestones? Were they the thing that like activated at the start of every upkeep phase?
I think they were milestones. There was
Yeah.
there was basically a thing from arts and architecture where you basically get like ballet or mime or whatever,
Yeah.
and it's at the start of your income phase you get
Yeah.
whatever that is, and it might be extra scoring opportunities.
Those
Those really did you well.
they really seem worth going for if you can get them early on, so that they like pop off as many times as possible. They kind of snowball in usefulness.
Oh yes, it was interesting because we both got very high scores, and I was like, that's pretty decent score. Like I'm about halfway around the board ahead of you because I finished my play first, which
Yeah.
meant I was scoring before you had finished your final round or final few rounds.
Yeah.
And there's one thing about this game, like even though you do end up like waiting for one person, maybe more if there's like if in like a higher player count, but those last couple of turns really tick down super fast because at that point there's no one getting in your way going,
Yeah.
actually.
You sort of just do your engine and go.
Yeah, you just sort of run. You don't have to worry about forgetting what you were planning to do this turn, which is kind of convenient. But like that last bit doesn't take that long. Like
No.
from me finishing to you having like I think it was 3 or 4 more rounds.
I think you're right saying in 2-player that's the case, because let's say 4-player and one person finishes early, those other 3 people probably are still stopping and thinking about their turns.
I would imagine
it
so.
might take a little longer.
But also, I would imagine that there is probably less opportunity to have like huge runaway early finishes.
Yeah.
In higher player counts because you've got like a larger world board once you get over 3 players.
Yeah.
You've got obviously there's going to be less early landmarks, so people aren't going to be filling up their main board as quickly.
Yeah.
There may be things we need to try this in at least 4 player.
I'm
It runs
curious
up to 5.
for that. Yeah.
And at some point we need to try the Shadow Empire, which is like an Automa 3rd player for 2-player games,
Neat.
which means that there's slightly more player interaction.
That's
Like they don't ever have income or anything; they just deliberately get in the way and claim landmarks.
That does sound interesting.
Yeah, but it was more important, first of all, that we learn how to play the game.
We remember how to play it again. Yeah.
It's been a long time since we played. We have had like periods where we've played an awful lot.
Yeah.
But it's lovely to come back to, and I need to finish doing washes on those buildings because
Yeah.
they're lovely, they're adorable, and the couple I have done a wash on look way better, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. What have you played? That's the thing.
Now, see, I've had a busy week, but mine has been a busy week of video games, both ones I can and can't talk about. But it's been a very games-heavy week for me. But I'm gonna rattle through a bunch because I played a bunch more VR games this week, and I'm gonna get them all out in one go.
Oh.
I played the demo for Humanity, which is not just a PSVR 2 game, but it also can be played just like without being in VR.
This is the Lemmings-ish.
Yeah, so this is from the folks behind Tetris Effect Connected and Res Infinite. I generally really dig their stuff. This is sort of capitalism Lemmings. What if Lemmings, but the Lemmings themselves, you were never punished for them dying. They were an infinite resource. There was just infinite of these little humans, walking where they're told, doing what they're told.
But you've got these fancy ones.
Yeah, you've got these fancy ones to go collect, and they will only move if sort of carried with the crowd of humans. And like, initially they're sort of optional side objectives, but as you get further, it's like, no, you need to go get them. They are the point of this. And you play a little ghost dog running around this sort of isometric world, dropping instructions on various grid spaces to affect how this ocean of humans behaves, be it turn this direction here, jump, do a long jump, get the float attribute so that you'll like fly higher in the air. Some of the levels are like there is some interesting variation in the demo that's there. Some of the levels are things like you have to set all of your instructions like all at once and then press go and watch the whole thing play out. Some of them have challenges as you go further through of like, here are some grey humans that they're bad, and if you let the godlike being touch them, they'll turn grey as well and go off with them. You've got to do what you can to get these sort of throngs of grey humans out of the way. They're very much just described as these people are not like you. And yeah, no. That feeling feels deliberate.
Yes.
It feels very, very in your face about this being it feels like a Lemmings-style puzzle game that is very critical of capitalism and tribalism, the sort of very divided us versus them nature of humanity.
Greed and the fascism it breeds.
Yeah, but also fun little puzzle game where you play a ghost dog. It's real interesting.
Yeah.
I am fascinated by this game.
Yes.
The puzzle design is really nice. The way that the puzzles are thought out is like each puzzle, without explicitly saying so, is trying to teach you something new about how this world interacts and how you need to think about puzzle interaction. And I think the first level in the demo that was like, in order to do this, you are going to have to acknowledge that some of these humans aren't going to make it to the end point, or you're going to have to send some of them in a direction that is probably going to be fatal for them. And you have to start having that slightly disposable thought about how you treat these lemmings in order to progress, and I think that is a very good use of narrative through gameplay. It's real interesting.
Yeah, it sounds it.
Yeah. Other VR stuff I played, I'll rattle through quick. I played some of the PSVR 2 port of Pistol Whip, which is...
That's the action alley shooting gallery.
Yeah,
thing.
music plays, you're sort of moving on a conveyor belt, there's things coming up at you, you shoot them with your guns in sort of neon.
How is the off-screen tracking for that? Because that was the first game I remember playing, I think it was on the Quest.
Yeah.
And being able to do the... Okay, I've looked at you, I've identified where you are, I'm raising that hand with that gun in it to point at that person, but I'm also turning around because I've been made aware of a sound on that side of me, and I'm going to shoot.
It's really good at that.
Wow.
Yeah, it continues to be able to well deal with, I'm going to aim at a thing while I'm not completely looking at it anymore.
Nice.
And that is, like, really neat. Tentacular.
Yeah.
I think you'll really dig this game.
Me enjoying tentacles.
Yeah.
Or cephalopod arms.
So you start the game as definitely a human, a very large human with tentacle arms in the ocean, and your sister's this tiny little human on land by a lighthouse, and it's your 16th birthday, and suddenly you are told the shocking revelation: you are not a human.
What?
You are adopted.
Yay.
You are a giant cephalopod.
Hell yeah.
Sorry I didn't tell you you were adopted. I found that egg many years ago, and then you hatched out, and now you are family.
Oh, that's the best origin story. I'd love that to be my origin story.
Right. But in this community you live in, everyone at 16 has to get a job. Ableist society that it is. And the town is not necessarily as welcoming and accepting of your proportions and hand nature.
They're not ready for a big cuddle friend.
They're not ready for a big cuddle friend. They're a little like not super accommodating.
Right.
But you end up working at the dump. Doing like sort of manual labor.
Okay.
And I don't want to say much more than that, other than you find something while working at the dump that sure takes the plot in a direction.
Okay.
I really like how this game controls. You have two big tentacle arms. You squeeze the controllers to grip things with the sort of suction on your tentacles. You can hold sort of bigger, heavier things by grabbing with like the middle of your tentacle, whereas like more fine detail you can sort of more easily do with the tip of the tentacle. And I think that it feels very good to manipulate things in world. It's got a little bit of a sort of Octodad style of like part of what is going on is that it's deliberately difficult to do some of the physical interactions you may need to do, and there is some humour born of that. But it's also very sweet. It's got really fun writing. It really, really leans into its premise in nice ways. In terms of like mitigating motion sickness, all of the sort of stages of the game are little diorama-style sandboxes where you are plonked in place and you don't have to move around. You just look around and do things with your tentacles.
I'm glad. That was the impression I had sort of got from the few images I'd seen of it.
It's one of those games that like is very comfortable to play in VR.
Yeah.
But it's very sweet, and I think you'll really enjoy it.
Yeah. Is that the full game that's out now?
Yeah, that's full game is out now. From what I can tell from like the percentage in I am and how long I played, I'm guessing it's about 5 hours total to play through, which is like that's a nice sort of length.
Yeah. And given how short some VR games can be, even when they're like, we're 25 quid, here's an hour, maybe half an hour.
Yeah, I'm like 5 hours is. That is a reasonable length that I feel like I had something meaty, but that isn't going to be too many sittings in VR. Nearly done on the VR corner. I played some of the Resident Evil 8 Resident Evil Village VR update.
Oh yeah, how is it?
So a few things. First of all, looks absolutely fucking stunning.
Okay.
The OLED display in the VR headset is very good at doing like very dark scenes with a lot of detail.
The HDR.
The HDR stuff.
I got the impression that the game would have benefited from that, because I think I played through most of it on my PC.
Yeah.
Or running it through my PC monitor and capturing for stream. So I don't know what it looks like on a really good HDR range with just like really black blacks.
Genuinely, like the really black blacks look so good in this. It's one of the best VR games I've ever played in terms of I'm holding a flashlight in my hand in a very dark room, and it's a kind of weak flashlight, and I genuinely believe I'm in the space.
Okay. Does it light things properly?
It
like
lights
a
things
flashlight
properly.
Should?
It lights things properly like a flashlight should, with its like diffuse light.
Okay.
Like it's one of the best experiences I've ever had with being in the dark holding a light in a video game. It's really interesting. The guns, I use there's some setting options to have them reload automatically, which I would really recommend people use, because having to physically, like each time you have to reload, grab bullet from your waist, pull back the top of the gun, put the bullet in, load forward, is like, it is a lot to do in a frantic situation, and I don't have the coordination or the accuracy to do that.
Right.
But being able to, like, very naturally aim down the sight... one of the things this does that's really neat is it asks you your dominant eye. So that if you're trying to do, like, close one eye and use a single eye to look through the scope, you tell it which eye you're going to keep open for that, like...
Oh, okay, so it'll start doing the monovision thing.
Yeah, so if you close one eye, it knows which... like, okay, you close that eye, you're just looking through your one scope eye. And that works really...
That feels like a missed opportunity, though.
Right, but like
this is the system that has the eye tracking.
Yeah.
Could they not have just gone, okay, this person is doing the thing of one eye closed like you do with gun?
Indeed, but the thing being like, regardless, it works really well.
Good.
It works really nicely at being able to just like look down the scope and accurately hit things. That feels very satisfying. This is a VR game that has no option for teleporting and is a walk-around one. And here is what I will say about it. This game desperately needs for its VR mode options to toggle your movement speed. Because at the start of that game when you're like walking through the snow in the dark in the trees.
Okay,
like,
so after the home stuff.
Yeah, after home.
Also, how weird is it carrying a weird, strange baby?
Oh, we'll get to the weird, strange baby in a minute.
Okay.
Yeah. When you haven't made it to the village yet, you're walking through the dark, through the trees, like through the snow. You're moving very slowly, and that was surprisingly comfortable.
Okay.
And as soon as you get to the village itself, your movement speed increases. And this is a game that was not designed for VR, that had VR bolted onto it, and the speed at which you accelerate and the speed you accelerate to are not comfortable in VR.
Oh no.
And I really wish I could just go, I know that I will be more likely to get caught by pursuing monsters. let me turn my movement speed down.
Yeah,
Because,
I'm wondering if that
yeah.
wasn't just a decision of we would have to do a lot more work on porting this, because obviously then you've got to account for how easy is it to actually do a boss encounter if you are capped to a maximum speed.
And, like, look, I recognise those problems, but I also go, you made, like,
You chose to make this VR.
you chose to make this VR, and you also, like, made a unique introductory mission with unique environments showing off how to, like, teaching you how to play. You're not afraid to put some money into, like, making the VR-specific version of this. Really could have done with, like, that little bit of extra comfort. A little bit more tweaking. Which is a shame, because, like, if nothing else, I would really recommend, like, I think you'd enjoy checking out, like, the opening tutorial teaching bit of this, because it gives you that opportunity to try the flashlight in the dark, the guns, move it while moving slowly and go, this is pretty cool, even if you don't want to motion sickness move around the whole thing.
I think the thing everyone listening really wants to know is how big that vampire lady, though.
I didn't get that far in. Also, holding the baby is weird because your virtual hands don't line up necessarily with where your real hands are, which is disconcerting. And also...
What?
So, when...
I suppose your hands are locked to holding the baby.
They don't
you can't just, like,
yeah, they
wave
don't want to
the
let
baby
you
around.
drop the baby, so your hands just stay floating in position no matter where your hands are.
Yeah.
Also, any time where, like, Ethan, the character, is, like, knocked to the ground and is, let's say, crawling on the floor, or is kneeling, or, like, after the bit at home where you wake up, like, in the snow on the ground, it's weirdly fucking disconcerting because they haven't done anything to change those moments, which means that you get a sudden disorienting moment where your head is near the ground, but it feels like your body's under the ground. Because the ground is at your shoulders.
Yeah.
And that's so disorienting.
And sideways, I think, when you first wake up from that car crash.
In the initial village, you have to, like, crawl under a crashed bookshelf, and you're moving forward while your shoulders down is below the ground.
You've become that thing from, is it Fallout 4, where they couldn't, the only way they got the subway to work is by making it a hat?
Yes, it's that. It's weird. And, like, other than that, it works surprisingly well, and if you've got a stronger stomach for more intense VR experiences, have fun.
I was going to ask if you'd got as far as the getting your hand chopped off again, but no, if you haven't actually seen
No, I got as far as, like, the first big gate I had to find a key for, and I couldn't remember where the key was, and I was running around in circles.
You've got to jump over the top, haven't you? And then go into the house, and then there's the whole thing about...
Oh, no, it's before even that. It's, first arrived at the village. There's, like, a well and a big gate to get into the village proper, just after you've gotten past the first few houses. And I couldn't remember where the key was, and I was walking around in circles trying to find it, and my motion sickness was getting worse, and I was just like, nah.
Have they done anything to fix the subtitles?
The subtitles are worse in some regards.
Oh, no.
Okay, so opening cutscene. You're very near your wife and baby. You're on the floor, wife and baby are on the sofa. The subtitles are, like, doubled up and playing on top of each other if you look at your wife and baby, the people, like, in the scene.
Yeah.
And I was like, what is going on with these subtitles? And I look away somewhere else in the room, like, where they're further away. Subtitles look fine. The problem
Are they
is...
being pushed towards you and losing their distancing?
If you're looking at something too close to you, the subtitles are too physically close in the world
For fuck's sake.
to get a point of convergence, and they overlap each other. Yeah, it's things like that make this feel like that make it feel like a rushed VR port.
Yeah, or not properly play-tested.
Yeah, it feels like it had to be ready for launch day. There was probably some money involved.
I would say it feels like either they rushed it for launch day, or they were like, we are willing to spend this amount on it and not a penny more.
I get the feeling Sony put some money down to say, please have a VR mode for a critically acclaimed long game available for PSVR 2 day. That's the vibe I get.
The Vive.
And last VR title to rattle through quickly. One that I wish I could be more unanimously praising of, and I was so ready to be praising of. Let's talk about Ragnarok, as in R-O-C-K. So, I'll get to the caveat in a minute. Ragnarok is a really cool concept for a game that plays really well. It is a VR drumming game in which you have like 4 big drums in front of you, and you are on a big Viking longboat, and the better you do, basically Guitar Hero but for drums on these drums, the faster people on the boat row the boat and the further you go. Try and get as far as you can in the length of a licensed music song.
And you are a drummer.
Yeah, I really fucking mechanically I love this game. This game plays so well. The best compliment I can give it mechanically is as a drummer, I was able to jump into some of the like higher level note tracks and sight read them and do pretty decently well, and they felt natural, and I could just sort of glaze out into the middle distance and go and do pretty alright.
You got no foot pedals. How does that work?
No foot pedals? There's just no foot pedals. You have...
You've just got 4 drums in front of you, no kick.
You've got 4 drums in front of you, no kick. You have essentially a cymbal to your left and right.
Yes, I saw the sort of floating cymbals.
Yes, the floating cymbal can be used, is essentially like your star meter in Guitar Hero. It's your... You've built up meter by hitting all the notes and not missing any. Hit this to get a burst of extra
You mean
stuff going
that doesn't just signify the end of 4 bars?
Yeah, there's a lot of things I love about this game. I like that for a game with a fully licensed soundtrack, that they cleared all the music rights to so that people can stream it. And
Impressive.
your VODs might get muted, but you won't get in any trouble for streaming it. And they have a list of tracks that they're like, these will definitely not get muted. These ones might get muted, but like you won't get in trouble for using them. I appreciate that for streaming purposes, there is a third-person view. Same for if like someone is watching you play on the TV while you're in the VR headset.
Like all those videos you see of Beat Saber.
Yeah, so instead of like seeing through the eyes of the person, which because of where the drums
shaky.
are, it'd be shaky, and because of where the drums are, you might not necessarily. The drums are down the bottom of the screen. The TV preview doesn't always see the very bottom of what the person's seeing. You might not see the drums.
Yeah.
You can just have a third-person camera perspective, and you can have choices of where that is to watch. Like, here is their character model drumming on the drums.
Nice.
Like a better viewing experience.
And is there any customization of the character?
Nope, you are just
Okay.
generic person with hammers hitting drums. I like the high score chasing mechanic. In single player, that is, your previous best score is another boat sailing next to you, and you have like
a ghost ship.
yeah, it's a ghost ship, and you have a little meter that does tell you how far ahead or behind of them you are in meters.
Okay.
Let's talk about the elephant in the room.
What kind of meter? Like in musical terms?
Yeah. Okay, let's talk about the elephant in the room.
Let's talk about the big Norse elephant in the room.
Yeah.
And this is... I grew up listening to metal.
Yeah.
Most of my, for years, pretty much all I would listen to was metal or hard rock.
Yeah.
And fucking fascists.
Yeah. So this game's soundtrack is largely metal bands that are like Viking metal, sometimes pirate metal, metal that fits into that genre of wouldn't feel out of place in a game with a bunch of Norse imagery.
Yeah, like Skalmud.
Yeah. And as much as I have really loved a lot of the stuff in the soundtrack, and they've really picked a lot of very fun songs to drum to, there are 3 bands in this game that I unfortunately have to go. I really can't play any of their tracks.
Yeah, so it's Gloryhammer, Ailstorm, and what was the third one?
I'm pulling it up. I've lost my place on the list quickly.
But yes,
Ailstorm, Gloryhammer, and Nano War of Steel.
Oh,
Nano War of Steel.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
I knew about Ailstorm. I didn't know that Ailstorm were connected to Gloryhammer.
Yeah. So the short version is Gloryhammer. There was a leaked text thread. Most of their members, it seems, were viciously violent misogynists and racists.
Yes.
Absolutely fucking vile reading the shit that they were going back and forth with.
Oh yes.
Apparently, the singer was the one person who was not involved in that text chain and was seemingly okay, who's now started a new solo project. So that's something, but Ailstorm involved some of the same people as Gloryhammer and has many of the same sort of allegations against them.
Yeah, I knew it was I think I knew that the lead singer of Ailstorm was largely involved in that. I didn't know about rest of the band stuff, but it was a case of, oh well, I guess I'm not listening to them more anymore.
Nano War of Steel, they have a bunch of old music, like, early in their discography that is just very fucking homophobic, and is very rooted in, They were very South Park-esque in terms of, we're gonna try and deliberately offend people and be, like, offensive for shock value. Yeah, and it's one of those, like, you really cannot tell how much if that is, we're just being edgy and how much is probably things they really believe.
Yeah.
So, like, there is still a soundtrack of, like, otherwise there are some really good tracks in there. It's just, I didn't think initially to do the thing that I really should have done, which it's because I haven't gone out looking for new metal bands in a while.
I mean, that is the reason.
Yeah.
Like, there's so much shit going on with metal bands.
Yeah.
Like, and it's like, well, go back to the classics. It's like, well, no, because Iron Maiden have been horribly problematic in a number of ways.
Particularly when you're like any kind of metal band that would fit into a game with a lot of Norse mythology flying
Yeah,
around.
because then you've got to deal with all the fascists who've basically like gone. We're having all the runes and all of this and that and the other.
That's
and all
the thing is, in the Guitar Hero style, where you've got things flying towards you that are going to like pass over your drums, and you have to hit the drums when the things pass over. The things flying towards your drums are Norse runes.
Be curious which runes they picked, and
I would need to check, but
yeah, like from the North, like genuine Norse pagan point of view, like I have been watching a few TikToks where people are like, "Look, I am a Norse pagan. I wear a lot of runes, but it is my duty these days to go out of my way to make sure other people understand that I am queer positive. I am all race positive."
Yeah, and this is kind of the point. Is like Ragnarok. You are such an interesting game. If you are going to center yourself around that kind of Norse imagery,
do your homework.
You have a responsibility to do your homework, and if stuff comes up, to consider maybe removing some stuff.
Yeah.
Like, that is a thing that I know will be unpopular, but also, like, there are...
But it's unpopular with the kind of people I don't give a fuck about.
Well, that's my point, and I know that's... The business may not see the same, but it's a real shame, because if it weren't for these, like, 2 or 3 bands, this would be, like... big system seller of PSVR 2 for me. Like, the way I put it before I realised some of these bands were there was I was like, I'm kind of happy that Beat Saber isn't at PSVR 2's launch, because it's made me go and try this other music rhythm thing that I might not have given a chance if the music rhythm thing everyone knows was there.
Yeah.
And the game is really fun, but with the caveat that I got given a free code and then discovered there were some shitty bands in there, and you've got to make
and you've also got to account
that.
for the fact that whatever else, even if you're not playing those particular songs by those particular bands, they will have still received licensing money.
You're still buying it. They'll still make money out of it, and it's one of those. I own it now. It is what it is.
Didn't pay for it.
No, didn't pay for it, and I'm bringing it up while talking about the things people should know about the bands.
It is a shame, because I think the most fun I had in Galaxy's Edge, apart from staring at things at angles perhaps that maybe weren't people's primary thoughts about things, was there's the bit where you go into like a cantina, and you're supposed to be chatting to the guy behind the bar and your handler, and I was just like, oh, there's like a piano thing over there, and you play it with drumsticks, and it felt really natural to just go, I'm holding the things, and I can sort of hit these pads and get notes out of it, and I can work out like roughly what tones they are, and I can play that, and it felt natural to go, I understand how long my sticks are, I can work out spatially where that is, and even though I'm not physically hitting anything, if anything, that's better for my wrists, which are bad.
Right. That is how I felt about Ragnarok. It's just a real shame about those few tracks.
Ugh.
Yeah. That's all my VR stuff.
Have they responded at all? Because I imagine people have shouted at the dev for this.
I've not gone looking hugely. I discovered this and was like, oh, that's a real shame, and then was very busy with other work stuff.
Yeah,
so
it has been a very busy week.
It's been a very busy week. Have you played anything else this week?
Not really. I haven't had time. I've just worked.
Yeah.
I've just worked on my holiday.
Well, I've got 2 other things I played very quickly.
Yeah.
My new Playdate games for this week.
Oh, yes. There's also one other thing that I'd like to bring up before we move out of games.
What, do you want to do it now? Or?
We can do that now. It'll kind of be a thing I brought up. Sector's Edge.
Oh, yeah!
You played some Sector's Edge, which is like first-person shooter, graphically somewhere between Minecraft and Trove.
Yeah, there are certain elements that are definitely, like, a little blocky, but it's not, like, fully...
It's definitely voxels.
Yeah, it's definitely... It's more detailed than a Minecraft, but it's
Yes.
definitely voxely.
It's got more, like, lighting effects and stuff, but it does have that whole, we can make a destructive environment by building it out of voxels.
Yes, as demonstrated by some of the missions that are like, detonate this explosive and then like half a building just explodes.
Yeah, the trailers make it look pretty interesting.
Yeah.
There seemed to be some building stuff I saw you doing in some
Yeah,
of those.
I wasn't very good at the building stuff, but I did a little bit of it.
But the fact that it exists, I've noticed a few times where you'd be like shooting someone at range,
And
they'd
put
be
up a
like
little...
in the middle of nowhere, and it's like, there is no cover here, haha, I will build my own.
Yes, and one thing I like about that is there are certain like, you don't just have to do block by block, there are certain pre-built shapes you have access to, so you can like, I'm just going to throw a wall.
Emergency wall.
Yeah.
But I'm guessing like everything else, those are destructible, so
They are, but
only
they're
last for a
fairly
few minutes.
sturdy.
But yeah, but you know, if it gives you a couple of seconds to reload or whatever. Like, I think that is a really interesting idea, and since games like Fortnite have taken the building out of them, and I don't realise it wasn't super well implemented in that game, or useful, but I do still like the idea of first-person shooter with opportunity to build shit.
Right.
Maybe a mode where there's, like, base building, and then you just assault each other's keeps or whatever. Might be quite fun. But yeah, it looked interesting, and we should probably talk about Death Mode.
Yeah, so this is currently in beta, but this is a mode that turns off all in-game audio, but in exchange does some light ray tracing of like where the sound would be going, and visualizes that as coloured light that is more intense the louder the sound, and is colour-coded by, at the moment, 3 categories. It's gunfire, footsteps, and other.
Okay, so you don't actually know whose gunfire, footsteps, or other.
So
you just know that
I believe
exists?
from what I understood from playing, footsteps, it doesn't show you your own team's footsteps. You can see where your team are on the minimap, so you know where your team are spatially. I believe it's largely, and they try and focus it mostly on enemy, so you know if there's like that sound is coming, there is an enemy doing that thing over there. Because obviously you know your own team's positions.
Yeah, I mean, in the Twitter video that they put out, I could sort of get an idea, an understanding of what was happening. I think because they kept going into like a third-person camera to show, like, in more detail what was happening. Like, you would see someone walking along, and there would be like a halo of colour coming off of them. And initially it just looks like a sort of a ring slightly away from them, and then it goes into almost like half-tone dots as it moves further away. But then there's also like red stuff, which I'm guessing is like explosions or
red
gunfire.
is gunfire,
I found it more difficult to tell exactly what was happening. Maybe because I sort of turned off everything while I was doing video editing, but I was like, I'm not entirely sure what all these different lights mean. Maybe if I've been playing it.
So that's the thing. Like, I've watched back that footage, and it's interesting how different it feels when you've got your hands on the controls.
I would imagine so.
As opposed to watching footage of it in isolation. Because in isolation, watching the footage, it just looks like a lot of colour. But when you can sort of instinctively respond by turning towards colour, it is impressive how much see a colour, turn analog stick a natural amount, and you are facing the thing that made the sound. And I found I got on really well with it.
I'd be interested to try it because, like, I definitely struggle with directional sound.
Yeah, same.
Less so with really good headphones on.
Yeah.
But generally speaking, like, if I'm just watching something on the TV,
Yeah.
I have no idea. Sometimes even in, like, a cinema where the sound system is huge, I can't tell what direction this thing is supposed to be coming from.
Sometimes I'm totally fine at it. Sometimes I can't do it at all.
Yeah.
And it depends on... I've got my one weird ear that like comes and goes with how much it can hear.
High five ear squad.
Yeah. And sometimes it is just easier to have like my eyes are much better at telling where a visual thing came from than my ears doing the same.
Yeah, thanks to eye tracking, we have discovered that eyes are the MVP.
Right. But yeah, it's a really interesting concept. I won't go into too much depth because it's this week's accessibility topic,
Yes.
but I find the choice to turn off sound while putting this setting on, I think is really interesting because obviously the intent there is, rather than offering the same tools to everyone, is offering a unique tool to people who cannot hear to try and level the playing field so that they can have an equal playing field competitively. And I think that is an admirable aim, and it's a thing we see very little of in like competitive game accessibility.
Yeah.
I am keeping an eye on this game. It is interesting, and it's definitely pushing the boat out in ways that I appreciate the ambition.
I think it's interesting that they have used the concept of positional sound, which a lot of games have used before, and the idea of them going, we're gonna have like voice chat on, and you'll be able to like hear if an opposing team are chatting to each other because you'll be closer to them, and then taking that system and going, what if we made it colours on the ground?
Yeah.
Because dev tools will very often be like, we're trying to work out how like a cone of vision works. Okay, cool. Now we're going to turn cone of vision into an understanding for like stealth games.
Yeah.
And like looking through walls in things like Deus Ex, that there's reasons for that from a dev point of view, and to go, hey, what if we just turned sound into sight so that deaf people could play too?
And
is a really good idea.
Genuinely, I really enjoyed playing with it, and if turning the sound off is the trade-off to access that feature, it's definitely a feature I would use in some games.
Anyway, watch this week's accessibility if you haven't already.
Yeah. Only other thing I've played this week is
Playdate.
I played my Playdate games for the week. So this week's games are Battleship Goddies and
So Battleship
Goddies.
Goddies.
Godies.
Uh-huh.
And Forest Burns Up in Smoke. Forest Burns being a name of a person, I believe. So Forest Burns is a park ranger. Is the best way I can describe him as. And oh no, the forest is caught on fire. Go save the people and collect little collectibles that are like little forestry badges.
Okay.
And collect little puzzle pieces that like help you fill in parts of like collectible trading cards.
Uh-huh.
It's basically Shovel Knight.
Right.
But instead of being one big overarching adventure, it's sort of procedurally generated little missions of side-scrolling left to right, fire is chasing you so there is a time pressure, collect the collectibles and get to the end of the level without running out of lives.
Okay.
But it's Shovel Knight. You have a shovel. You use it for like, a person's trapped in a ditch, sort of dig them out. Swing it sideways at a tree to knock the tree over to get across a gap. Do the Shovel Knight thing of bounce on your shovel to get extra height to get up to a ledge. It's very unapologetically Shovel Knight.
Oh my.
It's Forest Ranger escaping a fire themed short bursts of levels Shovel Knight.
See, when you said Forest Ranger putting out fires on the Playdate, I was like, oh, you're going to use the crank to like.
Oh no,
spool
you're
out
you're not putting out the fires. You're running away from the fires to get into a helicopter and fly away from the burning forest.
Well, you should have had a controlled burn, and then this wouldn't be spreading as widely as it is.
The only use of something that isn't the regular controls, you use the crank occasionally to pull a bucket up from a well if there's like something in the well you need to collect. You do the crank to wind up the well. It's just little bursts of knockoff Shovel Knight. I'm not opposed, but it is very unapologetic. Battleship Goddies is it is interesting. I
just look of complete bafflement.
I don't know how to explain this game. This game is like very unforgiving in its difficulty, but it is essentially a side-scrolling like spaceship shooter where the gimmick is you have a limited number of bullets that will, like, you fire them, they bounce, they hit the enemy, they bounce off the walls, and eventually will start coming back towards you, and you need to catch your own bullets by positioning yourself so that they hit you to come back into you. Sort of almost like Breakout in the sort of like be ready where the dot goes, in order to get your bullet back to fire it again.
Okay.
If you don't collect your bullet on its return, you don't have that bullet. now.
Okay, well, like was it Titan Quest with the one arrow that you've got to fire and keep retrieving?
Yeah, kind of. And like the first few levels are like there are usually not more than like 2 or maybe 3 ships at once, and you are trying to like bounce your projectile again, slightly breakout-esque, to like hit the core of the ship, which might be initially like, oh, there's a sort of like U-shaped alley and like the core's at the end of it, so you just like fire into that and like straight line shot. Or it might be there's almost like a capital G shaped like path inside this ship, and you're trying to like fire the thing so it'll bounce through there and get to the core in the middle.
Mm-hmm.
You'll sometimes get power-ups, which will do things like give you extra bullets so that you have more bullets to play around with. It is a side-scrolling shooter about getting your bullet where it needs to be to hit its target, and also catching your bullets back so that you can keep using them.
Huh.
If you take damage, you do get to rewind using the crank to rewind to a point of your choice to start again from.
Okay, so you've got your rewind function from the
Yeah.
Switch?
Yeah, but you can't just rewind at any time. You can only rewind if you have like taken damage and lost a life.
Okay.
Which does unfortunately mean you're sometimes in a situation where you're like, I have no bullets left. I'm gonna have to just cause myself to take damage so that I can rewind to a point before I lost my bullets.
Huh.
And like it's I wish I could just go, okay, just take away the life and let me rewind before I lost my bullet. It's a clunky way to do it. But I do like that when you restart, it's like, look, you don't have to restart any earlier in this level than you want to.
Yeah.
You can go back to a point where you have a bullet and are as far into the level as like you think you're safe to restart from. I do like that ability to choose where you restart the level.
Yeah, good for all those games of I don't want to have to walk back.
It's just this one moment I'm struggling with. Let me just restart like right here.
Oh, that'd be so good.
Right.
A number of games where it's been like, yes, the problem was not me getting to this point. The problem was the fact that it takes me so long to get this point. I cannot practice this set of actions.
Right. I wish I could set it to have like more lives or something so that like I could do a bit more of that, because I think it's 3 lives as your default, but
I think 3 lives is well, so you don't actually get the life back once you've rewound.
no.
Huh.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's an interesting game. It's one I want to give more time to. It is a fascinating concept that is definitely a little unforgiving, and I'm getting my head around like the playstyle of it a little.
So you've made some stuff on Playdate.
Yeah.
How easy do you reckon it would be to like pop those open and try and add infinite lives to?
I suspect not easy for me, because I suspect most of these games were either made in Lua script,
Okay.
or if they were made in Pulp script, were converted to Lua script because of the complexity of what's going on and how well they run.
Right.
One of the things I've been told is, yeah, if you make a Pulp script, learn how to use a converter to convert it into Lua script to get it to run better. And I know nothing about Lua script, and I would have to probably somehow reverse engineer them back into Pulp script to have any understanding of what's going on to make tweaks.
Interesting. Because as I understand it, like Lua's been around for a decently long time now, because I think a lot of the Minecraft modding stuff uses Lua.
Yeah.
And it seems to be like one of those, okay kids, we've taught you how to use Scratch.
Yeah.
Here's Lua as your next step.
And here's the thing, it maybe not insurmountable, but I'm trying to learn one thing at a time. So someone could probably do that. Me, probably not.
Curious.
Yeah, that's everything I played this week that I can talk about.
Well then.
Time for this.
Do you want a new tattoo?
Yeah.
Are you struggling to find time to do it?
Yeah.
Try temp tattoos!
Tell me more.
They're not temporary tattoos, oh no, these are temporal tattoos! Get whatever tattoo you want, it will appear on your skin, but you will have to make sure that you go and get it done eventually, because otherwise it won't have ever existed, and then you won't be able to know that you need to do the thing, but you can save up for it and go, that's a cool tattoo! And then you get the thing, and it goes backwards in time and is on your skin at whatever point you wanted it from.
I'll definitely remember to do that.
Oh, we really didn't think about the people with ADHD, did we?
No.
Welcome. Thank you for inviting me to be keynote speaker this year. I think we as landlords are not getting what we deserve. Yeah. I reckon it's been too long that we've been, not appreciated enough societally. Which is why I'm like, first order of business, we should start asking for tips. If someone who just brings you a drink in a restaurant can get a tip, why can't I get a tip? I'm basically on 24/7 call out, That's what I tell them. Right, so, why stop there? Why stop there? Maybe we should get Christmas presents. When they're all buying Christmas presents, why do they never buy one for the landlord? What, do I not deserve a gift at Christmas? How about a monthly thank you card? I do so much by providing a home. Why not write me a little card that says thank you for allowing me to pay off your mortgage? And even more than that, maybe weekly letter about how much I'm appreciated. Make them send a letter every week that, if it's not good enough, if I don't believe they sincerely appreciate me, maybe they don't live here anymore. And I think, I think these are all pretty good sells that they're gonna do a good job of getting us, what we deserve. I think if we demand these things, we will get exactly what we deserve.
We've got delivery for you.
Oh, yes.
Should I just wheel it out here?
Sure.
Okay, then. I think someone sent you a gift wrap something. It's very big.
Oh, that's wonderful. I'll open it right now. Oh, who sent me a guillotine?
We did! Get him!
Ah.
Your reign of terror is over. So, what have you put in your eyes?
We watched Quantumania, that Ant-Man film.
So, if anyone wants to know about what we thought of Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania, we forgot to talk about it 4 days after we watched it.
I enjoyed it for what
I enjoyed
it.
it was silly, it was funny. A lot of the more surreal imagery was just beautiful to look at.
I don't think it's as bad a film as people have made it out to be.
I don't know how bad people have made it out to be because I haven't watched any.
People have been like, "Oh, worst MCU thing, full stop ever."
Oh no, I didn't want to. I didn't want to walk out 15 minutes in. It wasn't Age of Ultron. Come on,
it's no fucking what was it, Captain Winter Falcon and the Winter Soldier?
Yeah, because again, I watched all of that.
Yeah, this was like, this has its problems. Don't get me wrong. It's very. And then this happened, and then this happened, and then this happened to get to the plot. Like, it feels like they had too much they wanted to do and not enough time to necessarily naturally get to some of where they wanted to get to.
Yeah, it's got both the energy of a middle movie, and a first movie in a sort of new character series.
Yeah,
but the character that it is the first movie for doesn't turn up for half the movie.
It's a film that spends a lot of time requiring you to just accept that things happen and not really know why or how.
Yes.
But there are some fun characters. There are some genuinely funny and sweet moments. Yeah. There were moments I got a real good genuine chuckle out of.
There was that moment where we sat there going, why are all movies the problem that they did not talk to each other?
Yeah, yeah. This is a film that has a lot of moments I enjoyed and is definitely not a well-made film. It's a film with a lot of structural problems that I had a lot of fun with.
I don't have the analytical skills or understanding of movie making to go that it had structural problems. I sat in the movie theatre for however long that was and went, enjoying the graphics, enjoying the things, making up my little silly thoughts about what will happen, and then talking to you about it on the ride home.
We had interesting thoughts about it. It's one of those films that, we at least came home and had a lot of discussion points and things that made us think of things.
How we tie this to things we have already seen in MCU.
It's, I certainly don't regret going and seeing it.
No.
Don't give money if you don't have to. Disney money if you don't have to.
No.
But it was a fun time.
Plus, it was nice to get out of the house.
Well,
we don't do that very often.
Exactly. It was an excuse for us to get out of the house.
But yeah, it's a lot of the like quantum realm stuff is beautiful, and I love like
Yeah.
fucked up surrealist imagery that and all the abstract nature that presents. And I think or at least I hope that the artists who worked on this had a brilliant time just going fucking wild.
There was some good alien stuff that felt properly alien.
I don't know how much of that is stuff that's lifted from the
Yeah.
comic books or from cartoon series or whatever,
Yeah.
but like I enjoyed what I saw.
I will say it felt, I did feel a little cheated that it felt at one point like there was gonna be a consequence for something, and then just very quickly they were like, nah, don't worry about consequences. I'm specifically thinking to do with the ending.
Oh yes.
Yeah. It feels sometimes like maybe there should be a consequence, and it would be very satisfying for there to be a consequence.
It did feel like an odd choice to be like, the thing.
Yeah.
No, that's alright.
Yeah, that fear of having an actual consequence was a little but
I think that would have been a more interesting
Right.
lead up, but maybe the Kevin bot has decided that certain
that's-
things have to happen
I
in
mean
a certain way.
that's the thing is like consequences are great, but we have future plans that we need.
Then why
things-
write the consequence in the first place?
Right, my point.
Like if you've got future plans that don't involve that consequence,
don't make your
that-
don't make your finale the consequence that you can't commit to.
Yeah, that was a point.
Yeah.
I enjoyed the purple friend with the slime.
Oh yeah.
Ooh,
Yeah.
I enjoyed that character.
I
I-
enjoy that what's his face from The Good Place was in it.
Yeah, Chidi.
Yeah.
I do not remember what that character's name was. I liked the way that person's powers were played. I liked Angie person with Senua.
Yeah.
From Senua's Sacrifice or whatever that character's called.
Yeah.
I thought they were interesting and kind of a badass. And that weapon, ooh.
Yeah.
Person
With light cylinder for a head.
Yeah, it was with the jam jar. pulsar.
Electric jam jar? I don't
Electric-
know, but it
yeah.
was cool.
It was very cool. That was a very cool character design. I enjoyed that. Bill Murray's character could have been literally anyone.
Yeah.
I did not realize I was going to feel so deeply invested in a house.
Yeah.
There is a couple of scenes. Watch the houses in the background. There are a couple of scenes where it's like, oh
Yeah.
no, oh yay! But I got very attached to the houses.
Yeah.
I don't think we talked about that afterwards, but that was like a big
Yeah.
thing. There's a couple of key scenes involving those, and I was like, oh. Have you watched anything else?
Yeah, I
Yes.
watched a Defunct Land video
Ooh.
called The Bizarre Garfield Dark Ride.
Is this the one about the how was it the log ride?
The Tunnel of Love.
The Tunnel of Love.
Yeah.
Yeah, that they turned it into like Neon Garfield.
Yeah,
ride.
so it was about so it's ostensibly about there was a genre of ride that was like ride on a log through usually it started off as like through an old mill was the thing.
I think it was called
And-
the Old Mill. for the
Yeah,
longest
and
time.
like they became quite popular and became like popularized under the colloquial name The Tunnel of Love.
Because teenagers would go on them for
yeah.
smooching.
Yeah, and it was sort of a history of one of like that ride's history into one of them being turned into a notorious neon-filled Garfield ride that
Slowly decayed.
that was trying to use like 3D glasses tech and was full of product placement.
Like the tech was fascinating because I did not know half of that stuff about like particular kinds of lenses with neon paint
Yeah.
and UV light.
that just makes certain colours appear to be more forward than others.
Yeah.
But it ended up kind of just being an interesting, sweet story about the history of these rides and the role they filled societally. Like, the end of that video was just, like, a really interesting discussion of, like, their function as the Tunnel of Love, and, like, there were some really nice little stories about, like, queer people who used them as, like, a place where they could make out and no one was gonna see or, like, have a go at them, and, like, it was an interesting history of a thing that, like, tangentially looked at a weird pop culture thing that existed.
If anything, the Garfield bit was the least interesting part of that entire.
The Garfield bit was a hook to get you into an interesting discussion of the history of the Tunnel of Love.
I guess so, but
Yeah.
it was a fascinating watch. The whole thing decaying in those last few years.
Yeah.
And them just sort of giving up on the 3D aspect of it. It's like, yeah, we're not going to repaint these.
Yeah.
Some bits have been stolen. It's now too bright in here, really, to be used
Yes.
as a Tunnel of Love in the way they used to be.
People starting the game of trying to throw their glasses into the mouth of the dog in the Garfield ride because the glasses didn't really work anymore.
Just the town where that place was.
Yeah.
And their sort of love-hate relationship with the Thing. I have all these memories of this as a teenager. They've changed it. They've changed it again. They've changed it back. And the push-pull of, we love it, we hate this version, we hate this version, we hate this version. And every new thing being despised yet loved by whichever generation had that connection with that version of it.
It's a worthwhile watch.
Yeah.
It's real interesting.
I think I watched it a while ago, and it's a good one.
I watched it this week and it was neat. What about you? Did you watch anything this week?
It's not been a watch everything. I mean, I've watched about 16 hours of Sky and playing Final Fantasy 14. I know more about Final Fantasy 14 than I did before.
Yeah.
There's some funny jokes in there. If you want to see some visual stuff that I've thrown in, you can enjoy all that stuff. Done a bunch of editing. We watched more Picard. There's another episode of Picard.
I'm real intrigued. 2 episodes in, it still feels like we are in deep setup territory.
Yes.
We've at least now seen the threat and the sort of stakes and.
We don't necessarily know that the two things are connected that have been big things, but
I imagine they probably are, but I definitely am already getting vibes of they're trying to set up a spin-off with the final Picard season.
Yes. Yeah,
I really feel like they're trying to angle for a spin-off.
Maybe so. But it's also done that whole thing that we've had in Picard in general of, hey, it's that person you're like, they're back. But now it's it's that person you're like, it's their kid.
Yeah.
Because we've had LaForge's kid in the first episode on the bridge crew.
There are certain characters, not necessarily the new ones they're introducing this season, but there are characters I wouldn't mind having spin-offs about, like Raffi. I'd take an entire Raffi spin-off.
Give us a Raffi spin-off.
Yeah, you don't need to introduce.
She's one of the most interesting new characters from season 1.
You don't need to introduce new characters this season to try and go, oh, maybe we do that.
Give us Raffi and 7 Space Rangers. I would watch the shit out of that.
That's exactly what I want. That's perfect. But I'm having fun with it, even if I don't know exactly where it's going yet. But I think they've set up a good ominous threat.
Yeah,
and I like the performance of that one person who is the current figurehead of the threat. Did a very good reminds me a lot in performance style of person from Tank Girl.
Oh, like Michael McDowell.
No. Person who plays Tank Girl.
Laurie Petty.
Yeah, Laurie Petty. The weirdly Laurie Petty vibes in the performance.
Smokes a cigar and is a bit manic about things.
A little bit sort of I'm going to very calmly and slightly sweetly talk about how fucked you are.
Yes, but she's way more sinister than Tank Girl, who's just haha, fuck you.
I'm not necessarily saying the same, but it's if you took Laurie Petty and Tank Girl, but was seriously wanted to see you suffer.
Yes.
Right, it's a little bit that.
She's way more sadistic.
Yeah, it's it just reminded me a little bit, but
yeah, it's good villain vibes, and I think I don't want to spoil too much.
Yeah.
Because okay, I'll save it for next week. But I have thoughts that I would vocalize, but maybe give people time to have had a proper watch of that, because I don't think it's been out very long yet, and whomst can say. But yes, excited by the series, by what's going on, and once again I am less interested by the return characters. Woo, we might or might not have Blazing Bev back, who knows? How long? It's been a long time since TNG, and they're all looking a bit worse for wear. And
Yeah.
Patrick Stewart's voice.
Wow.
I don't know how much of that is acted, but it really sounds like he's lost like a lot of power in his voice, which is understandable. He's getting on.
Yeah, yeah.
I just hope they're having fun. I hope they're all having fun.
Yeah.
And I think that's the most important thing. But yeah, enjoying it visually, stunning. It's got another one of those credit sequences of there's probably shit to work out if you are but to know what those things are.
Yep.
Which has been like a highlight of both seasons. Interestingly, this one just goes straight into the episode.
Yeah.
There's none of that like, hey, we're gonna like do some music. It's like, nope, we're going, get on with it. Show now, show happen now, get on. But yeah, enjoying it so far. Either that or it is there and I've just tuned it out every week. Who knows?
I
It's the
don't
ADHD.
remember seeing it either, so
Same.
I think we're probably correct. ADHD.
Some ADHD. Have you watched anything else?
No, that's it for me, really.
You? Not really. Not really. I've been working.
Yeah,
I've
same.
been working, you know,
same,
on my time off.
It's been a busy one.
It has.
Well then, time for this.
I've got a new sponsor.
Who's our new sponsor?
Well, do you have the
I do have the ADHD. I do got that one.
Yeah, you got that one?
Yeah.
Or any other memory conditions?
I mean, yeah, my memory is real shite.
Well, what if there was a thing you could do?
I wish there was a thing I could do.
There is a thing you can do. This is soiremember.lol.net.
Tell me more.
Well, if you got something to contribute to a conversation, right? You've been there, we've all been there. You're like, someone has said a thing that's tripped a thing in my brain. And like, I want to say the thing, but I can't just blurt it out because they are still talking, and that would be rude.
But if I don't say it now, I will forget it, though,
Yes.
is the problem.
And then you'll have that immense sense of loss and, like, failure because you couldn't remember it. And you'd got to the end of the thing, and, like, you'd be like, oh, yeah, and... They just said, oh no.
Or even worse,
Hello.
people could see in your face that you had something to contribute, and then they go, oh yeah, what was it you were going to say? And you then have to admit that you forgot it.
And
Yeah.
Well, what about So I Remember?
How does it work?
So I Remember.lol.net. It's got, like, special It's got special brainwave monitoring that will log your thought and allow you to check a list on your phone to remember what it was once there's a lull in the conversation. It will detect, like, the sound waves and things.
Oh, there it is. That is what I was gonna say.
It's even got a little alert if you forgot that you even had something to say.
Oh, my phone's buzzing in my pocket. I did have something to say, didn't I?
Yep, there it is. It says, so I remember.lol.net. Enter the code Q&PS 250.
Oh, that's good. I almost forgot.
And get your free month's trial of this completely free app that is free.
Hooray!
So I remember.lol.net. Tell them we sent you for some reason.
It's good for the analytics.
No one likes an unanalytic. Inside the boardroom of Supremacy Software.
Hi. So, the workers, the code monkeys, the drones are apparently they're complaining.
Okay, so I get the flogger, we go down there, and we deal with it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, look, I feel like I should probably at least address why they're complaining. You know, not that it's going to make a difference, but so that you know the flavor of complaint we're getting.
I mean, it helps me come up with, like, new ways to put them down for being slackers, you know. If I have that, you know, I can write some good material, you know, make something really cutting before I go down there.
Exactly. So
what is it?
it's the team we've had working on that space open world exploration game for like 8 years. The one that was a sequel to that very 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 normally scoped single player experience, and we were like, yeah, let's make it an open world.
Yeah.
Whatever.
We took the popular thing, and we were like, how can we make this what we want?
How can we make this nothing like the thing that people are asking for?
How can we wrap that thing around money get due?
Exactly. Open world means more things that you could charge money for.
Yeah.
Right? So we've had them working away, and they've just we told them we didn't want to do procedural generation because people were complaining at the time that's
that was out of
suck.
focus.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So apparently, 8 years into making an entire handcrafted galaxy, every single planet, no procedural generation, handcrafting every planet, working solidly 7 days a week for 8 years. Apparently, they're feeling burned out and can't keep this up.
I'll be honest. I kind of forgot that the third floor was there at all. You know?
Yeah.
We had there's the common place.
Yeah.
For not for us,
No,
but for
no.
the peons, and then there's HR, security, the canteen, and then there's the dev floor, and then there's that empty space that I haven't really thought about, and us up here.
Yeah.
And, we're the important ones, and it's usually straight down to the executive car park and out.
Well, see,
But apparently that whole
Yeah.
middle section, they've just been working away for 8
Yeah,
years.
I thought we canceled it. That's the thing. Is
And especially after the one guy left.
Yeah, I would never have said, yeah, you can work on this for 8 years. I'd have said, get it out the door in whatever shape it's in a year. So,
right. And
yeah.
we'll have a roadmap,
Yeah, so, my thinking is we go down there and we tell them, hey, don't you dare tell us you're burned out. If you've spent 8 years on this and haven't yet crafted 35 unique handcrafted, detailed, real, one-to-one scale digital planets,
right?
We each with multiple cities and countries and their own, entire ecosystems. If you haven't done that in 8 years, you've been slacking,
right?
And if you've been slacking, you can't be burned out. So work harder.
Yeah, and for less money.
Exactly, because you've clearly been paid too much for too long.
Yeah, in fact, you owe us some of that money back, because clearly you've been exploiting us. I feel exploited.
I feel exploited, too.
So, so it's handcrafted, right?
Yeah,
you want it to be individual, creative. What if we ran... How many people are down there?
I lost track at this point. How many do we need?
100 or so?
Yeah, maybe.
Okay, what if we just ran 100 instances of that whole AI thing that writes code?
I mean, it's not procedural generation if we procedurally generate handcrafted levels, I think.
We said the game wouldn't be procedurally generated. We didn't say that we wouldn't procedurally generate the devs.
You are fucking genius.
I know. So, what have you put in your ears?
Basically nothing this week.
Basically
what have you
nothing?
listened to?
I'll listen to some music. I'll listen to a little bit of music. I've been putting some tunes on. I've been trying to make the effort to listen to more music, because I realise I have been deep in podcasts for a while. I can only talk about the same podcasts. Especially the kind of podcast I listen to so many weeks in a row. It's it's that show again, or it's that thing where people talk about video games again.
I mean, I've not been great at it the last few weeks, but that's the thing. I've used this show as an excuse to try and make myself listen to new music.
Yeah, I mean, also just I think part of it is I get worried that if I listen to too much music, I'm going to end up recreating it next time I'm sitting down to make my own music.
Yeah, that's fair.
And then I'm gonna get copyright hits for stuff.
Yeah.
I've already had people go, this really reminds me of X. It's shit. Now I have to go and definitely listen to that and make sure that I haven't
accidentally.
I don't know what they call it, subliminal recreations.
Yeah.
I was you did the thing. We can't all be Billie Eilish and be it's literally Plants vs. Zombies plus a crossing noise.
Yeah.
Some of us have to go, I'm trying to do something new and original, and I plucked this out of my head, and when I was playing the notes, I was that's a fifth, and that's that's a third, and that's a thing, and the notes go uppy downy, and that good. Oh no, I've recreated something, because there are only so many chords and notes.
Yeah.
And rhythm structures.
Yeah.
Trying to do your best to make it original, but I listened to one of the Jungle Cakes mixes. It's Ed Solo and DJ Decline. It's Welcome to the Jungle, Volume 2.
Ooh.
There's basically it's two albums of drum and bass, or two CDs of drum and bass. I'm not listening to them on CD, but that's how they were released originally, with like a mixed version of all of the tracks at the end of, or at the end of the second CD.
Yeah.
So it's like cool. There's like hours of like good mixed drum and bass. It's Jungle Cakes. It's got that typical Ed Solo Jungle Cakes vibe. I like a lot of the stuff. I am realizing more and more that Ed Solo coasts by on like the same 12 tracks a lot.
Yeah.
Like the Jungle Cakes Volume 1 was like, cool, this is all the classics. But Volume 2 I'm going, a lot of these tracks aren't as good as the selection from the first one. And a few of them are like different mixes of the same track with possibly different lyrics that were used on previous stuff that I've really enjoyed of his.
Yeah.
And it's like, feeling a bit retready.
Is Ed Solo one of those ones that mentions his name in tracks? Like,
Ed Solo!
yeah.
But, I mean, you get that a lot with DJs
Yeah.
anyway. Like, they have
I
the
mean,
little producer
Yeah.
loop.
My point being,
Watermark.
I mean, I'm very surprised that someone that would repeatedly just shout their own name in tracks might reuse things that they've done before audibly.
Yeah, I just watermark my tracks because of people stealing, and that's why it says you're listening to Bedroom Programmer at the beginning of every track. That's a watermark. It's not.
Your stuff is all original. I was making a joke at his expense.
I was also being silly and justifying myself. But yeah, it's been a lot of that. Not a lot of music stuff apart from that. I listened to 2 hours of drum and bass, which was a nice excuse to have a bit of a move around before getting back to work.
Yay!
Yay! Are you listening to anything else at all?
No, it's just been video game soundtracks. I got really into. I really enjoyed a track, and then was like, "Oh no, I can't enjoy this track," and that's been my week.
Yeah, I enjoyed a track. I think it was called Dig Dig Dig, and it's by someone on that thing. Is it Winter Rose or something like that? Dwarf Metal.
Windrose?
Windrose.
I think it was Windrose. Yeah.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed that. That was
That
good.
track turned up on TikTok this week, and I was like, that sounds fun.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, I will Google them with, like, controversy, homophobia, transphobia, racism. Nothing came up.
Yeah.
But the fact that is my reaction to every bit of metal I listen to says a lot about metal, especially if it has sort of Viking-y, dwarven vibes.
Yeah. I'll try and find the tracks quickly from Ragnarok that I did enjoy that were from bands that I couldn't find any controversies about. I did have to get over the stumbling block that was, yeah, but that's not that track I was enjoying that I've now had to throw in the bin, as is sometimes the way. Yeah, Windrose's tracks were all really fun. Drunken Dwarves, Mine, Mine, Mine to Erebor were all real fun. Ultra Vomits, heavier metal.
How much heavier?
Yes, it's heavier. The SIDH, the SID, have a track called Heroes. It's very like, it's metal, but it's definitely got some like dance music influences in it.
Nice.
And some sort of like big orchestral swells that were neat in combination. Join the Riot by Paddy and the Rats was like very fun. It's like not taking itself too seriously, slightly comedic pirate rock.
I mean, that's why I used to listen to Ailstorm.
Right, it's that vibe I was looking for. They had like, that was a pretty fun track in that regard.
Gonna have to Google them.
Yeah, what other ones were on the like good and okay list? Celkilt, CELKILT. Next One Down was a kind of fun track. There's a lot of like flute and wind instrument stuff in with the sort of like piratey rocky metal, which is like, that was a fun combination. Those are the ones that I remember. I think those were the ones that I remember enjoying. Sons of O'Flaherty, Dead and Gone was pretty fun.
If nothing else,
Yeah.
the track titles for these are entertaining.
Right. I think from a quick skim of the track list, I think those were the ones. I know they're all from bands that weren't on the controversial list, and I think they were the ones I enjoyed.
No one immediately went, those are problematic.
I googled all the common kinds of bigotry and the band name, and nothing came up.
That is my standard reaction to most metal these days.
Yeah. So those are things I listened to. They were all fun tracks to drum to.
Also, if you're listening and you happen to know the kinds of metal that we might enjoy, but not by problematic people, do feel free to hit me up on the Discord. I've got a Discord. You've got a Discord.
Yeah.
On my Patreon or possibly your Patreon. I don't know how much stuff gets shared on yours. Do us a link. Tell us the things. Tell us the good stuff that isn't problematic. Because I'd love to find more of that. Love metal. Hate racism.
Yeah.
Well then.
Time for this.
Are you self-employed?
Yeah.
Do you have the adada?
Yeah.
Do you struggle turning off and actually just giving yourself a bit of a rest?
Yeah.
Do you get to the end of what should have been some time off and go, I didn't actually have any rest or do anything, when I should have done it, in fact I just worked?
Yeah.
Give yourself permission slips. You can send them back through time, just allowing you to just not.
You deserve to just not.
Oh, this one says you can have a little bath.
Oh.
Yeah, just take some time off from a bath. I know you've been working 90 hours, but what if instead a little bit of a rest?
Oh. That sounds lovely.
Well, this one says go outside. Like, I've looked at the outside and I've been like, the days are getting longer and I would like to see the sun, but somehow whole day slipped past and I haven't actually left the house. I've just been working.
Well, now you've got permission.
I gave myself permission. Thanks, future me. Permission slips. Apparently they're able to completely avoid paradoxes, so you don't ever have to worry about writing them for yourself. Thanks, permission slips.
Thanks, week of credits that don't cause paradoxes too much.
Yay.
Hello, and welcome to the Soft Report. I am Lord Percival.
And I am Mittens. Meow.
Meow indeed. Today on the Soft Report, we are going to talk about all the things that have gone up in popularity and things that have gone down in popularity. This week, being soft is very good and is very popular. The soft stocks are way up.
Having a nap in the middle of the day stocks are also up.
Lowering the blood pressure of our cohabiting humans, way up, unlike their blood pressure.
Being hungry, down. Big bad. Not a fan.
Not a
fan
fan
of
of
hungry.
Gift of almost dead bird, way down, very down. They did not like the gift of birds, so remember, do not put any of your stock in almost a dead birds.
Even if you are convinced that your human doesn't know how to hunt and you should be helping them.
You might think it's not fair that the man in the green overalls comes every week with big baskets and delivers food at the floor, but you're not allowed to do that? Don't worry, his stock's way up somehow. Bird, not so much, because humans have weird taste flavors. That needs more research. Research into humans. That's still plateauing. It's not making money.
Big purrs. Big up.
Big up, big paws. They are good. More of that. That concludes this week's The Soft Report. Next week is the jingling coming from somewhere around your neck. We ask Professor Fluffybottom.
Do you know what I want to see more of?
What do you want to see more of?
Social justice warriors.
Social justice warriors?
Yeah.
All right, Larry. All right, Barry. How you doing? Oh, not bad, mate. Not bad. You been up to much? Oh, just being exhausted by the world, you know. Yeah, relatable. Yeah, my particular flavour of exhausted frustration this week has been another article in the British media about trans people.
Oh, I'm shocked. You know, how many hundreds is that in, end of February now?
Exactly. And this is not going to be a surprise, but in one of these, it appears that a transphobe may have just told a blatant, unbelievable bold-faced lie about the trans community and been uncritically believed. Shock, I know.
Shocked. I mean, it feels like this one of all of them is it's interesting from the point of view of usually is just entirely made up bullshit.
Yeah, usually they just make up a thing completely out of nowhere.
It feels like this one, they were maybe struggling around and they were just like, if I replace one word.
Exactly. I can take a real interaction that happened and tweak just like one tiny thing and make it a reason to legislate against trans people.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, because
People in jeans must be stopped.
Yeah, it was quite a thing to try and explain to people who hadn't heard about it that that allegedly some trans person had just out of nowhere gone, oh, I'll dry my hands off on my penis. In the middle of a bathroom, as trans women are known to do, just loudly.
Oh, yeah, they love drawing attention to it.
Yeah, loudly drawing attention to their own trans status and their genitals in a space where they might be a threat for, being in that space. And, that article is, like, fucking ridiculous because, like, now that we've heard from seemingly the person that, that story was about, who was like, no, I said I'd draw my hands on my jeans, and transphobe either willingly or, just because it's all that's on their mind when they're around a trans person, heard the word penis in their head and ran with it.
Yeah, I mean, I can see your average transphobe either being the there's the ones that shout penis at every like rally or whatever they're having, or any time a trans person is speaking. And I imagine that just like that word just runs on a constant loop in their head, and that's they just put that in.
Yeah.
Or, as you say, they got to the point of just a lack of creativity and were like, how can I make this? I'll say they talked about their penis.
I mean, look, I can understand how if you wanted to make a believable lie about trans people, you'd root it in a real thing and just change one word because then you can keep your story straight.
Well, I've always imagined that they weren't that creative, but, they do say that if you're going to, work on some kind of fiction, maybe base it in sort of reality so that, you can build from that in a believable manner.
Yeah. Well, the thing about that particular opinion piece that happened in is it turns out there's also several other lies in it that can be provably untrue. One of them was a story about going to an optician's and trying to buy some glasses, and I tried the glasses on and they were way too big for my head because they were men's glasses, and I asked, why didn't you label them men's glasses for big man heads? And the opticians were like, we mix them all up together. We don't gender them anymore. Except you can go on their website and look, and they definitely do have gendered categories for their glasses like that. To say that as a company they have gotten rid of gendering of glasses is just a lie.
I mean, I wish they would, but I've always known that glasses came in various face widths because human skulls are not one size fits all.
Exactly. But the point being that like it's not even just the one thing. It's just a lot of invented scenarios that no one's gonna call them out on because
they're Daily Mail readers, and they're the kind of people who believe that shit uncritically.
Yeah. They've written this for people who do not want to be told it's wrong because it reinforces what they believe, and it's important to be vocal about these things because, so often when transphobes lie about trans people, they invent a thing out of complete whole cloth that just never happened, and it's hard to prove a thing that never happened.
Well, indeed, they'll be like, well, prove that it didn't happen.
Yeah, proving a negative is real fucking hard, but this is one very rare example where, because it seems they have twisted an event that did really happen, that we can point and go, no, you have heard a thing you wanted to hear because you hate trans people, and it's important to use this as an opportunity to go, the media did not check your claims at all, and, you are currently trying to push anti-trans legislation on a thing that is a lie. And, that is important to talk about.
Oh, yes.
It's tiring, though.
Exhausting, mate. You fancy a hug?
Oh, yeah.
Good dog, mate. Good dog.
Yeah, good.
Right, I think I'm going to go and have a nap, I think.
Oh, same.
Nice. So, we done a book.
We did done a book.
We done a book.
Do you want to tell people about that book?
It's called Who Hunts the Whale. It's a satirical book about the video game industry that's definitely not based on anything real. It's entirely fictional. And yeah, people have enjoyed it. Many people have said it was very readable. Someone I am friends with outside of video games and being online messaged me and be like, "Hey, I bought the book. I backed it. You clearly didn't notice at any point," and I didn't. And they didn't advertise it. They were just like, "Hey, I've just finished it. I really enjoyed it. It was very readable." So I'm getting it from all sorts of people now. I think like 7 or 8 people have been like, "Yep, read it, loved it. It was very manageable." And yeah, you could join those people. And if you've already read it, you could maybe get another copy and give it to someone as a gift, or just as an emergency backup copy in case you've stroked the front cover of your primary copy too many times. you could do that. You could give them as gifts to loved ones, as opposed to other things that are not good. Get a good book. You do other things though that aren't this.
I do other things that aren't this.
What are those things?
I mean, you can find me at Laura K Buzz pretty much everywhere: Twitter, Twitch, TikTok, YouTube, Patreon. That's the one that pays the bills. Just Laura K Buzz. You'll find me on all the things. The same day that this goes up for non-patron people, will be
Sunday.
Yeah, on the Sunday is the same day that season 10 of Dice Funk kicks off.
Oh shit.
Yeah. We are already like 14 episodes deep into recording season 10. But the gimmick with the season is that half the season I am a player and half the season I am a DM.
Yeah.
We've got two different parties of players with 2 different DMs telling 2 separate group stories, but they're in one connected world and they're all going to sort of come together.
Yeah.
It's two sides of a story that'll come together.
Yeah.
It is a really interesting creative challenge, and I'm really happy with both as a player and as a DM. I think it's some of the best Dice Funk I've been involved in. I'm so happy with it.
I'm very excited to hear it.
I
'cause
can't-
I've kind of dropped
Yeah.
off that show, and that saddens me because
A lot of people have said similar things, and if you were looking for an opportunity to hop back in, I think this is going to be it. I think this is one of our best seasons in a long time, and I am so excited for people to start listening.
I am excited for you DMing. I am excited for Austin as player as well as Austin as DM.
Yep, Austin as player, and it's the balancing act is all Austin knows if he does anything too chaotic as a player. I'm a player in his sessions, and I can be equally chaotic back. So we're keeping each other's chaos tendencies in check somewhat. But it's been really fun, like, telling 2 halves of a story with, like, minimal... Like, I'll tell you just enough that you don't step on my toes and vice versa.
Occasionally messaging each other being, "Are you using this character next arc, or can I borrow them?"
Or sort of like, okay, let's talk in vague terms about, like, where we see our stories ultimately going and how those might line up, so that we can sort of steer our boats towards the same destination without telling each other how we're going to get to that destination.
Yes.
It's been a really fun little experience. Yeah, so that's starting soon. What about you? Where are you on the internet?
Where am I on the internet? Well, I've been on an episode of Dice Funk recently.
You have?
With you.
Yeah.
And others. Yeah, we were on a new Shard Point one shot. We were Eldritch Dead. I was going to say Eldritch. We were demigods. We were patrons for warlocks. We were going out doing a nice little shopping spree to get something nice for our warlocks.
Yeah.
And we got to play the patrons, which was silly. You were you were
Gambella?
Gambella.
Yeah.
And like basically what if the god of wild magic or demigod of wild magic?
What if someone was giving you definitely wild magic and not just doling out good and bad magic to you depending on what was going to get you most invested in praising your patron as
Were you
a
whale
warlock?
hunting?
I might have been.
It would have been
hunting a whale.
hilarious if your warlock had been like whalekin or something.
I mean, look, I didn't want to go too on the nose that I'd been thinking about Who Hunts the Whale around launch, and that was where I came with the character from. But
Yeah, it's we had a lot of silly fun with that. It didn't get too chaotic, even though I was playing a mid-old one. Not a great old one, just a mid-old one, you know. Errol was trying her best. And we had a lot of fun. Go listen to that on the Dice Funk stream.
Channel. Yeah, podcast feed, YouTube.
Feed, that's the one I meant.
Hooray, we got there.
You got that. But also, I do other stuff. I make t-shirts, I make music, I make this very podcast.
You do.
I do. I edit it and I put it up and I make it available early to Patreon backers. That's patreon.com/stonedmonkeyradio. For as little as $1 a month, you can help me justify the fact that even though I'm on 2 weeks holiday from my day job, I haven't stopped working at all. And all of my other stuff can be found at Linktree. That's linktree.ee/Janiac. JANEIAC. Laura, will you sing us out, please, darling?
Until next time, be a stranger.